Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel again. So today you join me with the A45s, which is the most popular thing on the channel, as I've learned. Thanks for all the comments. So today we're going to do an oil change on the A45s, and the reason I'm going to do that is I'm preparing for a Euro trip right now. We're going to do 4,000 miles around Europe and some of the most key petrol head locations, and we're doing it in the A45s, which is a childhood dream of mine. So before we go, there's a lot of preparation work that we need to do, and there's a full Euro trip preparation video coming. But today, we're going to use genuine Mercedes parts for this oil change. So we've got OW20 oil here. This car takes 5.8 litres, so we've got 6 litres here, and in the car we've also got a new filter. So I don't know how to do an oil change. It's not something that I've ever done, but Scott, the guy that was helping me with the lowering springs, has again been kind enough to let me get in on the process. So we're going to jump round to one of his other garages right now. We're going to get this car up on the ramp and we're going to start, and I'm going to take you guys along on the process for a wee bit of learning. So thanks for tuning in on the A45. If you're enjoying this content, hit like, hit subscribe, comment on the video, let me know what you think, and enjoy this one too. Hello and welcome back to Dreamscape Automotive again. Welcome to Dreamscape Automotive. Wait, stop there. This is probably a good time to remind you, if you're enjoying this content, please join the journey with me and subscribe to the channel. A lot of people are watching and aren't subscribed, and I would love if everyone was, so that would be great and it would be massively appreciated. So as you can see, this is HBR garage that we're at, so I'm going to drop their details down in the description of the video. That's us just getting the A45s up on the ramp. I always like these types of videos. I don't know why, it's just super satisfying getting it up on the ramp. Here's Scott now just taking the under tray off. You can see that the under tray on this car is held on pretty well. Scott was using the impact gun to take it off. I really like to see the underneath of these cars, and there is an aerodynamic aspect to this as well. And if you look just up to the right, you can see the brake cooling ducts as well. Scott just casually taking a phone call whilst working on a car. Classic mechanic stuff. But yeah, he's just working around all the bolts, pretty easy. This one was above where the ramp was, so he just had to use a ratchet. There was no other real need for what he was doing. If the ramp was a bit wider, then he would have got it with an impact gun. So pretty easy to remove, wasn't really struggling by any stretch of the imagination. And once it comes off, it's fairly light. You'll see him just dropping it off in a minute and sliding it back across the ramp. Thankfully there was no cracks or breaks or anything like that in the under tray, which is good to see considering the car's lowered and it has scraped a few times, shall we say, on speed bumps. So as I said at the start, I don't have too much knowledge around this subject. However, I believe this is Scott taking off the sump plug. He's just about to take it out, and you should see that over, you know, that satisfying thing that everyone sees in automotive videos is the oil starting to drop out. And I will say this, Scott missed the bucket by at least a metre. I think he fancies himself as the type of guy that gets things on target, but unfortunately I couldn't catch it on video, but he had to move the bucket before I managed to get the camera down. But he did miss it by a country mile. He tells me he does this every day, but I'm not so sure. Anyway, so he's made a bit of a mess, as you can see in the floor there. There's the evidence on the floor. He's laughing, see. But he does clean it up soon. So that's us just letting the oil drain out of the car. The oil was shown on minimum on the dash, so I'm going to say there was less than 5.8 litres in it, but it did take its time to drain out, and I'll show you in a minute, but it is pretty dark. Just trying to get a close-up of the oil there. So I think this oil is around 10,000 miles old, having looked at the service history of the car. I picked this car up on 9,000 miles and it had had an oil change before that. I have now done about 19,000. So you can see it's pretty dark as it's coming out there. So definitely a good bit of routine maintenance that was needed. And there's Scott just firing back in the sump plug again. He's just going to tighten this back up here. So again, everyone, this is a relatively easy thing to do if you've got a ramp. There was nothing here that I thought was too difficult for me if I had a ramp. Again, nothing more difficult than the lowering springs, that's for sure. So something I could probably do myself if I had a ramp. That's us just moving on to the filter now. So as you can see, Scott is using his ratchet and a big socket to get the filter out now. So the filter goes into like a filter housing on the side on this car. A lot of them are up high in the engine bay. This one is down very, very low. Was quite surprising to see the position of it. And also when I went to Mercedes to get the part, they just gave me like a filter cartridge. Quite a lot of the time on cars you'll get like a filter that will come like in its own housing. But this time round on the Mercedes AMGs, it appears that they just give you like an insert for the filter. So he's just going to let that drain out. I didn't actually realise there was so much oil in the filter, but every day is a school day. And you can see there he's just letting it all drain out while we're chatting away there. So quite a bit of oil coming out of that. Again, very dark, definitely in need of an oil change. So super, super happy that we've done this today. Probably took about 5-10 minutes maybe for the oil to drain out of that before Scott decided to take it off. And we'll get a little close-up of the filter in a moment, and you can see how dark the oil is in that. Scott did have a look. Obviously nothing worrying with the filter or anything like that, which is good. Okay, and I'm just having a quick look at the oil as it's the last bit's dripping in from the filter. You can see how dark that is coming in there. Obviously there's other oil in that tub that's came from other cars, but I tried to get as close a look at the stream of oil coming out of my engine as possible. And there we go, Scott just taking the filter away. So that's that all done, which is great. And I'm just trying to get a close-up here of where the filter goes so everyone that's watching can see it. As I was saying, it's kind of in the side. There we go, look at that. Definitely don't be drinking in like that. That is nasty. There's Scott there just unpackaging the new filter, nice and white, as you can see. So that's a genuine Mercedes-Benz part, and along with the oil, which is, I would say, recommended for these types of cars. And there we go, clockwise thread, in it goes. Scott's just going to tighten it up in a moment. And he's about to do something that you don't see a lot of mechanics doing. Now, Scott looks after these cars as if they were his own, which is obviously a great place to be. He's about to start, giving the bottom of the engine a wipe. Look at that. Look at the care for the car. Don't want any excess oil in there. Absolutely great job. Perfect. Best type of care for the car that I could ask for. Oh, there we go. He's cleaning up his mess. That looks like a guilty man to me. Missed the bucket by a mile. So Scott's just firing on the under tray. There's no point in doing all the work underneath the car, lowering the ramp down, then putting the oil in, blah, blah, blah. You're as well as just putting the under tray back on. So Scott made sure that he torqued up the sump plug, put the filter in, tightened it up correctly, and now he's putting the under tray back on so that when we bring the car back down to the ground to put the new oil in, we're in a position that we can just take the car right back off of the ramp. So again, another easy process, nothing too strenuous as long as you've got the right tools. You just reverse the process from earlier and just fire all of the bolts back in. You can see Scott just looking for the bolt locations there and doing a cracking job of it, getting them all back in. It's important to put the under tray back on correctly. I think a lot of people underestimate the function of an under tray. As I said at the beginning, it does have an aerodynamic aspect, especially on these new modern cars. but also it really just protects all of those pipes and fittings and everything that we've seen underneath there. How exposed the bottom of the car would be to stones and stuff like that from the road is unbelievable. So definitely important to make sure you maintain your under tray and keep it in place. So there's no real reason for this clip. I just thought that it looked cool. I positioned the camera back here and just checked the screen. Thought it looked cool. That's us coming down off the ramp now. You can see Scott there pressing the button to bring it down. Okay, on to the good bit now. So there's Scott just putting in the fresh oil. So this oil is OW20 fully synthetic motor oil from Mercedes. It is quite expensive, but it's definitely worth getting it from Mercedes. And just for information, for anybody that's doing this car takes 5.8 litres of oil from empty, and that is the reading with the filter in. So I had a big bottle, which was 5 litres, and there's Scott just putting the rest of the litre in right now, and he's just taking it away and checking it, putting it back in, and as soon as it got to the 5.8, that was him finished. We didn't want to overfill the car, obviously. It says on all the forums and in the handbook that the car takes 5.8 litres. And here's me trying to be cinematic and attempting to get some sort of cool walk round video with the car. I don't really know why I've done this, but I guess it looks kind of cool, and that light on the wall was really shining off the Magno paint. So I thought I would try and be cinematic and get a nice, cool video. To be honest, it turned out all good. Look at the graffiti in the background. The car looks right at home in there. And again, there he is, wiping the car down, making sure that he's not got any excess oil spilled on the car. Honestly, finding a mechanic that does this, unbelievable. So HBR, ask for Scott, any work you need done, and he will look after your car. So it turns out the car needed an MOT, so we just got it done while we were in there, and there was some sort of recall on the system, so I'm going to have to phone Mercedes about that. Look how close the bottom of the bumper is when he rolled it back off the MOT ramp. I was panicking. And that's us done. Excellent bit of work there. There's one of the mechanics just reversing the car out. Just look at that Magno paint in different sunlights. It's like almost like a different colour in every different light. Inside the garage it looks darker. Outside the garage it looks light. It's just an amazing bit of paintwork. Honestly, it really amazes me. So that's us done. Easy job. Pretty good. Again, HBR in Dumbarton if you're needing any of this work done. And we're going to cut to a few clips in the car now. Yo, so we're back in the car now. So big day there. So it's unbelievable times for the A45s, getting a bit of routine maintenance before we go on the Euro trip. So I just want to extend a special thanks again to Scott and the guys at HBR for fitting me in last minute. As always with us car guys, there's a lot of last minute decision making going on. You would think, you know, we're the best ever at planning modifications like months in advance, but when it comes to routine maintenance, we always want it done like that. So thank you so much to Scott. I think that was an easy process that I think most people will probably be able to follow. I hope that it was educational again, but for the purposes of the end of this video, now that we've got fresh oil, why don't we just enjoy the A45? What a car this is, honestly. I don't know if you can hear the pop. Whew. Honestly, this car, the acceleration is just crazy if you get it at the right bit of the power band. Tell me this, do you think in your head, if you're a car guy, do you think, or girl, do you think that you can feel when the cars get fresh oil in it? I don't know if it's in my head. I love this car, man. I think I can feel it. I know it's probably in my head, but I don't know, you tell me. Some small pops and bangs there, so I'm not going to give too much away, but the pops and bangs are going to get louder soon. Watch this space. What a car, honestly. Love it. If you haven't been in an A45s, you haven't driven one or ridden in one as a passenger, then try and get in one, because honestly it is something else. I used to own an older variant of the A45, the non-S version, back in probably about 2020 maybe. Yeah, maybe 2019. It was a 64 plate it was at the time, and to me at that point in time that was the best car I was ever going to own, and it was unbelievable. But honestly, what Mercedes have done with this variant is just I guess I never expected it to be as good as what it is. So another reason why I want to keep on top of the maintenance using like Mercedes genuine oil and Mercedes genuine parts, because I just feel as if they really have slotted this A45S firmly in with the AMG range, where before it kind of felt like the class AMG A45 was like just sitting outside, but really this one is in the AMG range. Right, let's have one last pull. Anyway, right, I don't want to have too much fun, so I'm going to call the end of the video there. So again, thank you so much for watching. I'm glad everyone's enjoying the A45S content. That maybe wasn't as exciting a video, but I think it's super important to document everything that's going on. And you know, don't be scared to do these things on your own. If you've got access to a ramp, it's honestly something that was relatively simple. And obviously working with guys like Scott, I'm getting a really good Haynes manual on how to do things. So thanks again HBR, thanks again Scott for always being supportive with the A45, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.